What is up, YouTube fam? I was actually in the office recording the latest version of my storytelling course, which I actually created, almost 8 years ago, 2014. I created the storytelling blueprint, and self-admittedly, I made a bit of a mistake with it in that I overeducated in it and taught a little bit too much. So now I'm working on the revised version of that, and I figured I would share some of the that I've been working on with you because I do believe it's insanely valuable, especially if you are using storytelling in your sales and marketing. So before we go ahead with this, do me a favor, give me a like and a subscribe, and you make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you get updated when I release new videos. Give me a like, and also let me know in the comments if you're using storytelling in your sales and marketing and what you struggle with the most with that. Is it coming up with a story? Is it finding a story? Is it starting a story? What is it about that? What's your number one challenge when it comes to using storytelling in your sales and marketing? I will also put a link. I don't know how to do it now. Let me see if I can pop it in the chat. I will put a link in the final description of this video so that you can grab my storytelling cheat sheet. It is a free cheat sheet. It'll share with you the key elements that every good story must have. And all you got to do is click the link, download it. I'll send it over to you. No strings attached, at absolutely no cost whatsoever. So let's jump in. Let me just get rid of this chat. People do not buy goods and services. They buy relationships, stories, and magic. Look, here's the reality. If you're a coach, consultant, author, expert, course creator, there's only two reasons people are going to buy from you. They either need a problem solved, or they have an unfulfilled desire that they need and are hoping somebody can take care of for them. So a problem could be, look, I have knee pain. I wake up every day. I can't put weight on my knee. I need this problem solved. I need this pain to go away. Unfulfilled desire is, I really want to get good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Or maybe I'm already training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I need to get better at retaining my guard, or I got to get better at submitting people, right? It's not a dire need. It's not a problem that I have to solve immediately, but it's an unfulfilled desire, okay? Now, in the process of that, what's going to lead them to you are a couple of different things. Number one is if you can prove to them that your solution for either one of these things is superior to everybody else's. Or, number two, they just happen to like you. Okay, so people are going to buy from you from one or two. Those are the two reasons why they're going to buy from you. And then on a deeper level, really it's your ability to educate and your ability to entertain. Those are the two reasons why people are going to give you their attention. Okay, so again, two reasons they're going to buy are they need to solve a problem, or there's an unfulfilled desire that they want to fill and take care of. The only two reasons they're going to give you their attention is because you're educating them in a way that makes sense to them, or you're entertaining them. Storytelling enables you to do both of those things because you can educate people on your product, service, course, solution, method, but you can also entertain them in the process, and that's extremely powerful. In business, we use stories to captivate, influence, and transform. Those are the three things we're looking to do with a story. Now, look, I want to dispel something for you right now. As somebody who's been in direct response marketing for close to 20 years, I've seen all different types of marketing approaches. And here's what I could tell you. When it comes to storytelling, there's this idea. It's a marketing hook that many marketers have been using for many years. It's not hard to understand why. It's sexy, it's intriguing, but there's this idea that we can do what Hollywood stories do. We can apply strategies from Hollywood and apply them to our businesses, right? So we can hijack the multi-billion dollar Hollywood industry and what they do to entertain people to sell our own products and services. And look, while there are some similarities between what Hollywood storytelling does and what we do, they're two completely different things. Hollywood stories are designed to entertain people. Business stories are designed to make sales. So they're two completely different outcomes that we're shooting for. The person that we're targeting with a Hollywood story has an endless amount of hours a day to sit down on their couch and binge watch Netflix. We don't have that luxury when we're trying to sell products and services to people. We have a very small window of time in which we can get their attention, hold their attention, and then hopefully make an offer to them that they take us up on. So while we can borrow certain elements from Hollywood storytelling and business storytelling are actually two completely different things. Today, a lot of people think that they're telling stories, but they're actually not. So let's take a look at this. We have a fabulous product. Here's what our customers say about it. You should buy it. These are the sales figures for the past financial year. Here's where the numbers drop. This is what needs to be done. This is the spread of employee of a satisfaction survey, blah, 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 right? They are not stories, okay? And the reason why they're not stories is because there's a marked absence of any form of inspirational or sensory language. All these people are doing is describing a situation. Here's what happened. Right? They're just giving a recount of past events. There's also no conflict to be resolved, and there's no key characters. So subsequently, there's no drama to capture the audience's attention. So there are two things. There are two main catalysts that drive a really good story. Okay. So first of all, I should say there are three. There are the key elements that are involved in the story. Okay. So you have your hero, you have your villain, and you have your conflict, right, that the villain is causing for the hero, right? So the hero is the main part of the story. They're the center character of the story, the person that you're rooting for, the protagonist, etc. The villain is something that is standing in their way. Now, the villain doesn't always have to be a person. It could be a person, place, a thing, a circumstance, something that's standing in their way. And then they're always trying to get to some sort of a result. They're trying to achieve a result or achieve a goal or become transform to become a better version of themselves, right? And so in order for that to be interesting, there has to be some level of conflict. If there is no conflict, people are not going to be interested. They're not going to want to know what happens to the hero. Now, here's what I could tell you. There are certain people out there that will tell you that the more conflict, the better, right? And while that's certainly true, if there is more conflict, you will get more interest and attention. I'll give you an example. If, let's say, I'm the hero in a story, or I'm telling a story about a guy, for example, and he gets shot in the leg, and now he's trying to get to a hospital. So his conflict is he's dealing with this bullet wound and he needs to get to a hospital to get it fixed, right? So that he doesn't bleed out. But let's say as he was trying to get to the hospital, he fell down a pothole. And while he fell down the pothole, so now he's got to get out of the pothole and he's got to get to the hospital. Well, let's say there was a bomb strapped to him and the only person that could disarm that bomb was in the hospital. So now he's shot. He fell down a pothole that he needs to climb out of, and he has a certain amount of time that he needs to get this done in before the bomb explodes, right? So now he's got multiple levels of conflict, multiple challenges that he's dealing with. Does that make for a more interesting story? Absolutely, it does. But here's the thing. You always need to take the context into account. How much time do you actually have to tell this story? Because not only do you have to set all of that up, but now you have to show how he's going to overcome every single one of those obstacles, right? So these are all things that you need to be aware and cognizant of, okay? The two ways that we really bring a story to life are using sensory details, which I'll get into in a second, and using contrast. Okay, so what I want you to think about for a second is, how do we make sense of the world as human beings? We do it through our five senses, right? Our human experience, and also based on comparison. So if you eat a hamburger today, how do you decide whether or not it's a good hamburger? It's because you compare it to the best hamburger you ever had and you say, is this better or is it worse, right? If you go out on a date with somebody and they start saying things to you, how do you decide whether or not you like what they're talking about? You compare them to people that you've went out with in the past, or you compare what they're saying to your thoughts, beliefs, and values, and you make a decision on it. So we have comparison and we have sensory language. Well, we use conflict and contrast, right, to tap into that comparison feature that's built into our brains. Is this a story? For 9 months, I struggled with my office colleague. Our working styles were in stark contrast of one another. While I was for more of a dynamic and innovative approach, they were more of a detail-oriented approach. We were both responsible for the biggest account in the organization. Being thrown together, let me pull this up. Being thrown together in this manner made us take a closer look at our working relationship and what we could do to change and improve to save the business. We chose an approach that involved a thorough analysis of data and using the resultant picture to back up some radical decision making. This led to action plans that would revolutionize our approach to dealing with our clients' businesses. This was a deviation from the status quo and took the clients by surprise, but the results actually improved their business. That was actually hard to say. So it has potential, but it's not a story. First of all, there's too many big words in that. One of the most important elements of communication, especially copywriting, marketing, and telling a story, is you want to always speak at a third grade level so that the words are very easy to understand. And there was a lot of stuff in there. But aside from that, there's no hero, there's no conflict, there's no key message. I don't know what the purpose of that statement was or where it's supposed to be taking me. So what are the elements of a good business story? Number one, there has to be a defined key theme. You have to know in advance what exactly is the main point that you're trying to convey. What do you want your audience to walk away with? Do you want them to buy something from you? Do you want them to accept an idea or an opinion that you have? Do you want to change their perception of something? What emotion, what thought process do you want them to have when they walk away from that story? And is the theme of your story congruent with that? I can tell you that in working with dozens of coaching clients, that when it comes to telling stories, there's usually two problems people have. Number one, they don't know where to get stories, so they don't know how to start them. They don't think that they have any good stories that they can turn into business stories. Or, even worse, they have too many stories and they start telling stories that are not relevant to what they're trying to achieve in their business. Second, there has to be a specific target audience. Who's it for and what do they care about? And this is really marketing 101. When I can tell you that whenever I help a client coach an online marketing campaign that's designed to get them new customers day in and day out, there are certain phases that we go through in order to craft that campaign. The very first one is the research phase. Now, this is not the sexiest phase of the marketing campaign, but it's the most important, because in the research phase, what we're researching specifically are the wants, emotions, and beliefs of our prospects. We want to find out, first of all, we want to know what they want, okay? If you don't know what your prospects want, you could take the chance of building an entire marketing campaign, creating a whole product or a course or a service, only to deliver something that they don't want, right? And so if you don't do research the proper way and understand what they want, you're not going to know how to present a good story to them. The second thing that you want to know is, what are their values? What are their beliefs? Because if you tell them a story about something they can't relate to, the story's going to fall flat. So, for example, if my ideal prospect is a middle-aged white man who's a hardcore, far right-wing Republican, red state type of guy, and I'm telling him a story about a certain achievement that Hillary Clinton made, it's gonna fall flat. He's gonna tune out. He's not gonna. That type of a story is not gonna resonate with him, right? And so you need to know who your exact prospects are and who your target audience is before you tell them a story. Next, you need main characters, and then you need a 3-plot story arc which appeals to their emotions, okay? Because that's the whole purpose of telling a story. Now, the 3-part story arc, I'm going to leave you. I'll explain to you what it is when we end this video. That's an entirely other training or conversation. You could leave a comment, below and let me know if you want me to go in depth on my 3-step framework. But it should have a 3-plot story framework, which is basically the present, which is where the hero, i.e. your customer, is now, the change, which is what they experience when they come across your product or service, and then the future, which is their new reality, which is much better, where they don't have those challenges, unfulfilled wants, needs, desires, problems, and obstacles because your product or service fixed that for them. You also need to know your story's purpose. So here it is, the key message. A well thought out story has a key message which answers the question, what is the main point of this story? What do I want my audience to walk away with? Is it clear and succinct? Could it be summarized in 1 to 2 sentences? Does it resonate with the audience? If your message contains layers of meanings, you want to usher the audience in to hear the deeper meaning by layering clues in the story. But main point here, again, is you need to know and define your story's key purpose. Next, your target audience. There are usually 4, when it comes to the world of business, there are 4 main audience types you're going to have. You're going to have investors. You're going to have clients, whether that's B2B or B2C. You're going to have employees and internal customers, and you're going to have prospective customers. Now, I teach people how to craft stories for all of these, but my strongest point is when it comes to prospective customers, how to create marketing campaigns that utilize powerful storytelling to get new clients and customers. Let's talk about your characters. Typically, there has to be a hero, right, who's around whose struggles the entire story revolves. There has to be a villain who's the key reason for the conflict or the obstacle that's standing in their way. And then you can have a supporting cast who adds spice to the story. They could be protagonist, guides, antagonist, or just neutral. Now look, every story has to have a hero, and every story has to have a villain. The supporting cast, in my opinion and in my experience, is completely optional. I know that there are lots of other storytelling frameworks that tell you you need something like a guide because, again, the guide, like Yoda in Star Wars or Mickey and Rocky, the guide is someone that the hero crosses paths with who's been there and done that. They have an infinite amount of expertise or wisdom when it comes to solving the problem that the hero's trying to solve. And so they call them to action and motivate them to want to go on this journey of achieving this goal, and they guide them along the way. Does that work? Absolutely. It's a proven storytelling framework to have a guide. Is it necessary? No. And the reason why I say that is because I have crafted marketing campaigns that have generated hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for both my clients and myself, and many of them did not include a guide. All they had was a hero, a villain, an obstacle or the conflict, and they follow that simple 3-step storytelling framework that I just mentioned to you. The present, the change, the future. Now, there are lots of different ways you can talk about that stuff, lots of different things you can weave into that story, but the framework in and of itself is extremely simple. So, how do you bring these characters to life? In order to create a compelling business story, you need to start by understanding your hero's deepest motivations. Are they craving security, or do they long for adventure? Do they value respect and reverence, or are they more highly value connection and enlightenment? Do they value personal development and their ability to make a contribution, or do they value leisure more? This is important because when you tell a story to a prospective customer, you are not the hero of the story. If anything, you could be positioned as the guide in the story, but you're not the hero. You want the customer to be the hero. You want the customer to be able to identify with that hero as much as they can. So again, if you don't know who your ideal customers are, if you don't know who your prospects are, you take the risk of potentially telling them a story that doesn't resonate with them. So, I'm going to leave you with this because this was really just designed to be a very short training, but this is the 3-part story arc, the framework that I have used over and over and over again. It's very simple. Part 1 is the present. This is where your prospect is today, where the hero is today. It's the struggles, the obstacles, the challenges, the pain, the unfulfilled desires that they're experiencing. Part 2 is the change. This is where they come across your product, service, method, solution. And then part 3 is the future. This is the new future that they have as a result of experiencing your product, service, method, solution, system, whatever it might be, where they no longer have those obstacles. They no longer have those challenges. They no longer have those unfulfilled needs and desires. Here's what I could tell you. While this looks extremely simple, it's super effective, and the beauty is within the simplicity of it. Because if you start with something simple, you have so much more clarity when you start fleshing out the actual details in the story, as opposed to starting with something more complex where you wind up either telling multiple stories, which is never a good idea, or you include too many heroes, too many villains, and then people get lost in the process. So following this simple 3-step framework, I have found to be the easiest, the most effective way to create killer stories for business that generate clients and customers. And like I said, if you leave a comment leave a comment below and let me know if you want me to do a deeper dive on this 3-step framework. But that's it for today. I will put a link in the description to download the storytelling cheat sheet. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like, give me a thumbs up, give me a positive comment, and make sure you subscribe so that you get updated when I release more videos like